I wanted to come back and I wanted to have fun with it. That's important to me at this point in my life, I think. And I want it to be proper in-depth interviews, as I've always done. I want to be a conduit between the fans and the bands, which I believe I was during the MTV era. And I want, to have some good times with it. And it was just so wonderful to get back into it and to be back in the scene in London. It's all just come about really organically and naturally and just feels wonderful.
What's up, everybody? It's Keefy at GhostCultMag.com back with another interview, and I rarely get to say this. I am truly honored today to be joined by music legend Vanessa Warwick. I mean that deeply. How are you today?
I'm really good, thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me onto the podcast.
Yes, and just there's so much to unpack and talk about with you, and obviously you have a brand new program, a YouTube channel, Trust and Rock, which is fantastic. I watched a bunch of episodes already. We've already got like the first batch out and more coming. And again, you asked me offline, like, I didn't think people in America knew about me. So fun story, right? We had Headbangers Ball in America and, went through different hosts until we got to Ricky Rackman, who I got to interview a while back and meet in person, and he was really swell. And, we used to buy bootleg VHS tapes because there was nothing else and there was no internet in the pre-internet age. Imagine that. Imagine no cell phones and no internet and no email. How do we do business? I don't even remember. Curly fax papers and phone calls, a lot of them. And
Yep.
I'm sure publicists would say the same thing and record labels would say the same thing. A lot of mail and post and postage. So we used to buy bootleg tapes back in New York City, where I'm from. I live in San Francisco now. We used to go to like a little flea market that was right next to the Tower Records in the East Village in New York City. And I used to buy a lot of bootleg concert videos, Metallica, Pantera, Slayer, Megadeth, etc. And they also had like MTV Headbangers Ball, and I bought a bunch of those tapes, and one of those tapes had you. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't know there was a Headbangers Ball anywhere else. I'm American. I don't know anything. I'm dumb. And a dumb kid in the 90s, and I didn't know any better, playing in bands and doing music. And I had been a musical kid and went to music school and all that jazz, and discovered you in your interviews. I was like, there's other stuff out here we didn't know. And then later on, we had obviously, we swept in with a wave, still sort of just barely internet, and we had Fuse and Much Music and things like that, Slave to Metal, stuff like that. So, presenters and interviewers and journos, and you really set an example, for us on how to do it and how to talk to people and how to relate to artists. And I've been a fan for so long, literally so long. And other people know about you here. Believe me, I brought you up to people, and then we were founded in Europe as sort of a webzine, and then so we still have quite a big staff in the UK. And they were like, oh, I was like, I'm gonna interview Nessa, and they were like, oh my God, like same enthusiasm. So you still have a legion of fans out there, believe me.
Oh, that's so amazing to hear, and it's so kind of you to make those comments about me and my interviewing style. And yeah, I'm just overwhelmed. It's such a wonderful thing to hear.
Well, it's wonderful to have you back. And I'm sure I'm one of those many people while you were busy doing your other career and doing it well, who have harassed you unintentionally, like, when are you coming back? We miss you so much. And you were like, now, I'm busy doing professional things and not the music world. But, such a good time to have you come back. We need to lean on music and creativity and the arts more than ever. But what brought you back to us? I just this email from your lovely publicist Sarah just took me by storm. I was just so happy. Honestly, we talked about it on our live stream already, to promote it, and we're gonna keep promoting it, on the site and things like that. But what brought you back to, why now? Why is now a good time for you to come back to this world?
Well, I think quite simply, the universe just lined everything up for me. I got a call from a Swedish streaming service called Stax late last year. And they said, Vanessa, would you like to come back and do a rock show on our streaming service? And I was slightly reticent at first, if I'm honest, because I hadn't been part of the scene for 20, 30 odd years. And I didn't think that I would still have relevance, but the producers assured me that people would welcome me back, and my husband also encouraged me. So I started doing Stax TV, and we came up with a show called Heavy Metal Heydays, which was really like a walk down memory lane to the golden era of MTV, all those great bands. Some of them, that you've mentioned: Metallica, Pantera, Nirvana, Kiss, Iron Maiden, AC/DC, all those incredible bands that still influence bands today, and many of whom are still going. And yeah, we came up with this format called Heavy Metal Heydays, and I did 8 episodes, and they went down really well. But then, unfortunately, Stax was just a startup, and it basically failed. So that came to an end. And then I'd been working with my old producer at MTV, Sara Harding, and I said, look, we've got something here. Let's do a YouTube channel. And she said, yeah, let's do it ourselves now and have control over it. And, we can build it up. So, yeah, we came up with Trust in Rock with Vanessa Warwick, which is the name of my YouTube channel. And then I've got a show on there called Rock Drop, where I'm going to be interviewing some very big names. And my first guest was the amazing Mr. Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains. So I got off to a flying start.
Right on, and it seems like no time has passed. You fell right into it. I'm sure there's a familiarity there. Jerry's lovely. Got to meet him a couple of times. He's really nice. We've interviewed William from Alice in Chains for the channel, and it seemed like no time had passed. You just fell right, like it was very like a walk in the park, as they say for you.
It's funny you say that, Keith, because it did feel like that. Jerry remembered me, obviously. I wasn't sure that he would, but he's just so gracious, and he's a very thoughtful and considered person. And I told him, you're my first guest. I'm just starting off, and he said, it's just great to see you again. And he gave a fantastic interview. And yes, the years just melted away. And I I wanted to come back, and I wanted to have fun with it. That's important to me at this point in my life, I think. And I want it to be proper in-depth interviews, as I've always done. I want to be a conduit between the fans and the bands, which I believe I was during the MTV era. And I want, to have some good times with it. And it was just so wonderful to get back into it and to be back in the scene in London. I'm very, very fortunate that the Karma Sanctum Hotel, which is the hotel owned by Iron Maiden and their associate Mark Fuller, have given me a room to use to record my show. So that's kind of the hub of my studio, if you like. And there's artists staying there all the time. They have loads of rock stars staying there. So it's kind of added some really great rock credentials to my show, that I can actually record it at what is the hub of rock and roll in London. So it's all just come about really organically and naturally, and just feels wonderful.
Amazing. I definitely am one of those people where it's like I've come to an age where I'm like I'm not surprised by the crossover between lifestyle brands and bands and hotels and pinball machines and whiskeys and beers and all the things, because those are the things their fans are interested in. Obviously, if there was no interest or there was no business, proper business you model to push these things forward towards success, they would not exist. I know a lot of things have been tried over the years and failed. But it's funny to me. It's not weird at all. And while on one hand, there's like a very youthful part of me that's like, fight the system and be rock and roll. But on the other hand, it's like, no, I absolutely want to drink Metallica whiskey and stay in the Iron Maiden hotel and rest my head on a pillow. A pillowcase maybe picked out by Bruce, or Steve. Like, I don't know. It's wild to me that there's all these different levels of integration and bands. I think it's kind of part and parcel of all the changes. So that's the thing I wanted to like coming back. Is there anything that surprised you about the changes? Obviously, the business is radically evolved from when you started.
Well, massively so. When I was at MTV, everything was done by post and fax. I don't think I had an email address until maybe the last 6 months that the show was running. There wasn't social media, YouTube. There wasn't this kind of instant response to everything. And I think that's one of the things that's been really gratifying in terms of my YouTube channel is I've had so much positive feedback. And I was preparing myself for maybe some negativity, what's she doing back? What does she know now? That kind of stuff. I honestly haven't had it at all. I have had 99% very positive and really supportive comments, which I've appreciated so much because it's given me more confidence to keep going. And people are saying that there aren't these in-depth interviews anymore. Everything is kind of reduced to bite-sized chunks, and even, songs now to be playlisted have to be 3 minutes 45. If they're any longer than that, they can struggle to get playlisted on things like Spotify and on the radio and stuff. And back in my day, in the heyday of heavy metal and that golden era of MTV, we had songs that were 7, 10, 20 minutes long. And music has to be allowed to breathe. And I've always believed that rock fans know so much about their favorite bands. I mean, they know way more than me. And it's my duty to the band and the fans to do a proper in-depth interview and, help the band express everything that they want to express about whatever they're doing, their latest single, their latest album, their tour, whatever it might be. Um, and that's what I want to bring. I want to bring back the really in-depth, proper journalistic interview, but obviously with a bit of a modern twist because I can do it myself now on YouTube, which I couldn't have done 20 years ago. So it has changed a lot, and in many ways for the better.
Right on. And as a person who owns a website as well as a YouTube channel, people don't spend the time reading anymore. I definitely grew up in the era where I was lucky to have, imports of Terrorizer and Kerrang and Metal Hammer. And here in the States, we obviously had the big magazines and Rip and things like that. But people don't read that much anymore, even, time spent on our website and analytics and things. So I do feel like, I love that you talked about it as a duty. I do feel like video channels and YouTube and other social media networks give an opportunity to bring a little flavor and a little more, attachment. The fans are ravenous for content, that is true. And I hate to just say it in terms of content. I feel my producer cringing right now on the other side of the screen, ready to punch me through the camera. But it's true. It is what it is, and this is what we make. We make things for other people to hopefully enjoy. I'm so pleased also that it's been positive for you. I probably say that my own reviews have about a 70% positivity rate, and the rest are very negative. But I read them all and I welcome them all, and I'm sure you're a toughie and you can take it. But again, it's been lovely to see you come back, and yeah, Jerry was gracious, and I'm so looking forward for everyone else to see more, because that's what we love to get. And again, what a fortuitous time. I feel like this is a strain. Also, we have like our legacy bands are still out there burning bright. I don't know for how much longer. Talk about this all the time. I don't know what the ceiling is on Metallica and Maiden and Priest and Slipknot and things like that. These guys are getting up there in age, and they're not going to be able to do this physically forever. And then there's a wave of younger bands who are really exciting. And I don't know if you have interest in or a finger on the pulse of who's out there now that you would like to talk to that's just come around or in the last few years that you've come back to us. So I don't know if that's a thing for you, or obviously it would be very, your relationships and your familiarity and your rapport with all these legends is so good. I'm sure it'd be very easy for you to, we're gonna stay in that lane, but I would love to know if there's any newer bands you would like to talk to as well.
Well, I already have, because it is something that I'd like to cover. And I've interviewed an incredible Welsh band called Those Damn Crows, who I was introduced to a few months ago and are so impressed by them. And I was just thrilled to have them on my show. Next week, I'm interviewing a female singer called Andri, who is extremely impressive. I'm very much looking forward to talking to her about being another female in rock. Just jumping back to what you said about the comments. Yeah, I'm I'm used to comments from my other world, shall we say? Because as some people know, I kind of went off at a tangent and got involved in property and built a property business and stuff like that. And there's been some unpleasant comments. As to be expected. And basically, it's none of my business what anybody else thinks about me. So I'm not going to be upset by it, but it was just really notable that there were so many supportive and positive comments. And, I was slightly nervous because, people can scrutinize you, they can look at you, they can think, oh, well, how old is she now? And, she hasn't aged well, or whatever people might say. I was slightly worried about that, but I've honestly not experienced anything like that at all, really. So yeah, it's very encouraging to me because I want to build up the channel. I want to expand what I'm doing. I'd like to, be able to go on location, maybe come over to America and do a tour report, all of that good stuff. So yeah, everything feels really, really positive at the moment. And just people like yourself, reaching out to me and inviting me onto a podcast and letting me know that, I have a following over in the States is just incredible.
Right on. I love to hear it. And we were one of the first websites to cover those damn crows. And I love Andrea. We interviewed her also this year, on her first trip to the States. She's fantastic. She should be so huge. I say that all the time. And she's also keenly aware of all the neckbeards in their basements, in their mom's basement, typing angrily on the computer. She's faced a lot of adversity as a beautiful woman and a talented young singer, and she fights them back, which is pretty like I think it's funny. She takes them
Yeah.
on. She doesn't take any shit. I love it so much. Um,
Well,
we
I
need
think
we need that.
we do because there's still probably I've had one or two comments, like, oh, what a groupie and things like that, which are very misogynist. I've never been a groupie ever. I have been a professional music journalist, and I've treated bands with utmost respect. And, it's just not been my style to behave in that fashion. And it's very 1980s to go around just calling people you don't know groupies. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure Andrew and I will have a very good conversation on that topic, and being a female in the rock world, and you know, having credibility and integrity, and not, trying to get somewhere via other means, shall we say?
Right on, of course. And you really were a trailblazer, especially in the underground, heavy music world. You really were. Obviously, MTV in America had, a whole diverse plethora of VJs, but in, Europe, you were really one of the first. You were one of the first for the UK, you were one of the first for metal. And I think a lot of people came to know you from Headbangers Ball. And again, I think that very first tape I had like a compilation of different shows. So it was like some standard shows. You talked about going on the road. Definitely Dynamo, because you interviewed all my favorite hardcore
Yep,
and New York metal bands on that Dynamo, like Biohazard and Life of Agony and a few others. And there was definitely a Donington tape that just blew my brain, because like that was like we still here in America, like for people who don't know travel and get overseas, we still talk about Download, which was, Donington, which is now Download,
yep.
and Wacken and things like that. And we're still like dreaming that dream, and you lived that dream, and you brought us in. And I think, again, it's your personality, not just your credibility as a journalist. And you asked, fun but thought-provoking, good questions about the music, which I think, helped. And like I said, you kicked those doors down. But also, I think relatability. Like you asked the questions also that people want to hear, because again, in a 30-second, 1 minute, 2 minute little bite around bumpers and videos, you have so much to do in so little time, and you did it, very, just very fluidly, which was great.
Well, thank you so much. And, as I say, I did it out of respect to the artist, because just to say, how's the tour going and why did you call your new album something, that to me is just lazy. And when bands are on the promo trail, they speak to tens, if not hundreds of journalists, and they get asked the same thing time, time, time again, which of course is understandable. So, I always was mindful of that and really tried to get under their skin about what had, inspired the album, or whether there were any themes running through it, or what had challenged them most about it. And maybe ask some questions that they hadn't been asked. And that's going to be my formula, going forwards.
No, sticky mouse key there. Fantastic. I often think about this. Only music journalists and serial killers have the one that got away. And I wonder if there's an artist you never did get to interview that you wish you had, whether they're still here or not with us.
I think I was so fortunate because after I finished at MTV, and probably not many people know this, I did stay on in the music industry and I started producing and directing. One of the things that I directed was Motorhead's 25th anniversary concert at Brixton Academy when they brought back the Bomber, which was an absolute incredible honor to direct that. And I continued to work with a few rock and metal artists. I also directed a video for Motorhead called God Save the Queen, which is a very good fun video. I don't know if you've seen it. It's got a Queen lookalike in it, and she pushes somebody off the stage. It's really funny. That's just my sense of humor. I got to interview somebody who's not rock, but who I really respect, and that's Madonna. Um, but to answer your question, I guess probably the one that got away, I would say Debbie Harry. I absolutely love her, and she was a very big inspiration to me when I was starting out. She's the reason that I bleached my hair when I was, I think, 17, and I've never had it back to its color ever since. But just that she was such a strong female, that she had such a distinct image. And she just looked amazing, even literally wearing a bin bag, as she did in the Atomic video. So, yeah, I would say probably Debbie Harry was somebody that I would have loved to have interviewed. But otherwise, I was so blessed to speak to just incredible human beings, not just incredibly talented people, but just wonderful human beings like Chris Cornell from Soundgarden, as a for instance. And it was interesting actually when I was talking to Jerry in my recent interview, we actually got quite philosophical, which I really liked because so much of kind of improving yourself as a human being is about personal development and kind of, pushing yourself outside your comfort zone and thinking and being mindful about what you're doing on a daily basis. And I had such a good conversation with Jerry along those lines, where he was talking in quite a philosophical manner, and saying how he really, really challenged himself on the album. And I hope to have more of those kind of conversations because I think they're so interesting. They're not just about music, there's actually a bigger picture to them. And it's something, that I really appreciate when I talk to people who have kept moving forward, kept progressing, kept challenging themselves. It's very, very easy to stay in a rut in life. And to some degree, I was probably guilty of that because I stayed in my lane at MTV for, I think, 10 years. And I was very comfortable in that lane. Admittedly, there weren't too many music journalist jobs of that nature around at the time, but I think when MTV Headbangers Ball was cancelled, it just came as a massive shock to me because I'd been in this kind of stasis for about 10 years where I hadn't really challenged myself or developed myself, and that made it harder to move forward in some ways. And I learned a lot of lessons from that. And I'm a great believer that, change is a very, very generally a very positive thing. If you embrace it and you move forward with it, you'll be okay. I think if you try and resist it and you try and stay in your little groove, that's when the universe, comes back and says, you got to move on. So I hope I'm not getting too philosophical, but these are the kind of things that I hope to talk about because the artists, have grown up as I've grown older. They're my sort of era, most of them, some older, some younger. But I think that's an interesting topic that everybody can relate to.
Right on. So hitting so hard at home for me. I also love Blondie, and I believe they're working on a new album. Maybe you'll get that chance finally. I think
Wow.
Debbie, I saw them a few years ago. They were wonderful. Chris is a super great follow on social media. He's sharing a lot of his photography now, and that he's been taking from over the years. He shared something yesterday from CBGB's when they gutted it. It was like gutting me, and I'm sure you can relate to things that have shuttered in the UK and Europe as well, and everywhere else. But yeah, you may get maybe you will get your chance with Debbie. I hope so. She's incredible. Still,
Yeah. And,
still
she stuck by Chris when he was ill.
right.
And, that speaks a lot about her as a human being as well.
When I saw her, Vans used to have the House of Vans all over the world. I think they're all maybe all gone now. I'm not sure if they still have the one in London, but they definitely don't have them in the States anymore. So when Brooklyn still had one, Blondie held a concert. They were the headliner with Liz Phair opening, which was stellar, right? Can't imagine a better one too. And she wore like a fantastic outfit with a duster, like a very long coat, and on the back of her coat was like "Stop killing the fucking planet." And I was like, "Oh my God, I love you so much." Like from the 8-year-old kid that saw the Heart of Glass video and was like, "What is happening?" to now. I still love Blondie so much. Her book is also great. I highly recommend her memoir. Chris has a memoir out also. Blondie fans, all right, we unite and fight. I love
Do.
it.
I've actually been to see Bruce Springsteen in concert recently as well. And I know he's not in our sort of metal heavy rock genre, but nonetheless, just such an incredible artist to still be going strong, age 74 now, I believe he is. And it was good for me to go because again, you could say, oh, he's a bit past it, he's not relevant. He was him and the E Street Band were absolutely incredible, absolutely incredible. And the passion and the energy that he put into it was utterly outstanding. And these people still have so much to say, so much to give, so much joy to bring audiences. So yeah, I was glad that I got to see him. You have a bucket list of a few that you'd like to see, and he was definitely on it actually.
Nice. One of the lucky things for us not having metal in our name is we can kind of do whatever we want and cover anything we want. So yeah, Bruce is cool with me, and we need him now. I think some of his records will probably resonate in the next few years a lot more than they had recently. But yeah, just as I want to wind this down and give you back your evening, and I appreciate you so much for submitting to this and hanging out with us today and sharing your story. It means so much to me. It really does. People can go back and check. I don't say that often. There's a handful of people I've been able to chat with. You're one off the bucket list finally, and
Oh,
I
bless
didn't
you.
think I would
Thank
get the
you.
chance. Yeah, yeah, thank you. But just for a last thing, do you have a favorite metal record of all time? What is your go-to record that you go back to and return to over and over if you have one?
Obviously, it's so hard to choose. But if I had to choose, there's two I would say that still totally resonate with me that bring back such incredible memories that mean so much to me. And one is Queensryche, Operation Mindcrime, which I love. And probably the other one is Mother Love Bone. And there's loads more that I could go on about. But I often get asked that question and it's so hard to choose, but those are probably the two because of the consistency of the material on the albums. Every track is brilliant. There's no fillers at all, and they were meaningful to me at certain points in my life. Um, and you know, just to sort of round up about me coming back, I do think the world has been through a very challenging time in the last few years with the pandemic, and wars and all sorts of other sort of world events, sorry, somebody's in the background, other very kind of, horrible world events going on. We need good time, feel good rock to come now because that's the lift that people need. Actually, one artist I've been working with in the last few days is Mario Vane. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's Australian, and he is doing this really anthemic, upbeat, feel good, joyful rock, really harking back to the likes of Kiss, and Quiet Riot and lots of kind of more glam bands. But so much of everything in the world and life is timing. And, I thought his timing was excellent because he's an older guy. He's been away from the scene for a few years. He's come back a bit like me, actually. Our kind of lives have gone in parallel. So yeah, I think there's a much needed time now that things are uplifting and joyful and positive, and people can tap into that, and it can it can just lift you up so much.
Music is the best medicine. I truly believe that in my whole life. At least it is the case for me. Vanessa Warwick, so lovely to see you and meet you. This has again been truly an honor. Welcome back. We're going to link everything in the description where everyone can find you. I urge people to watch this program when they're done watching this interview. And again, I can't thank you enough for joining us today, and I hope to see you again sometime.
Oh, it's awesome. And thank you so much for your support and your kind words. They really do mean the world to me. And I do hope people will jump across to my YouTube channel, Trust in Rock with Vanessa Warwick, and have a look and hopefully subscribe because I think only about 8 or 10% of people watching the videos actually subscribe. And I do need subscribers to keep me rocking and creating the content. So I hope that your audience will do that as well. But thank you so much, Keith. Been lovely talking to you as well. Really appreciate your support. In fact, I think you were the first journalist that reached out to me.
Well, lucky me. That's crazy, but I expect there's going to be a lot more. It's needed to have you back and have your level of character back in the scene. We need it so much. Thank you again, and
Oh, bless you.
we'll see you out there sometime on the road, perhaps out here or out there.
Oh, blow you a kiss.
Oh, thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.